is up, guys? What is up? It is I, DDP, back to do a little bit of Mavs Hawks pregame here. Now, this past weekend was a little bit crazy for me. I ended up not being able to do the Mavs Fastbreak. Just got out of school and DDP is oh, okay. I glanced at that for a sec and thought Glad was saying I was going old school. I'm looking around like, what's different? What am I doing that's old school? Gotcha. Yes, sir. So, because I wasn't able to do Mavs Fastbreak on Sunday, and the Mavs played last night, or Mavs played Monday night. Didn't do a show last night because of a schedule conflict we had come up, although now looking at it, I think the show that we were kind of pulling back the schedule for ended up not happening, so kind of silly how the whole thing worked out. But first in the house, Gleh. We got big homie from the D as well. Paul H, Marcelo B, what's up, guys? Cam Hicks, Teflon Breed, what's up? Excuse me, I just finished working out earlier, so I'm a little parched. Anyway, so we should have Ranger King in the house here as well momentarily. Let me see here. Bear with me just a moment as I get everything up to speed. There we go. So, with Luka Doncic versus Trae Young, round one being tonight, I wanted to pick your guys' brain, see what your thoughts are. Is this a big game in your opinion, or is this just one of 82? Error code on the Twitch. Really? Interesting. Well, I can investigate that in the background while I continue with the show, but see what I can find out. I bet you the stream key or something switched on Twitch recently. I think that's happened before, so I can fix that, Ranger King. Anyway, is this game a big game in your opinion if you're a Mavs fan? One of 82. Okay, yeah, I tend to agree with that myself. That doesn't quite fix that. I tend to agree with that myself, Paul H. I think this is, even though everyone wants to talk about this and everyone wants to make this a big deal because, you know, Luka and Trae were basically traded for each other, I don't tend to view it that way. Like, in terms of it being a big game. To me, this is, let's see, it's a big game. If they want to be a playoff team, they need to beat teams like the Hawks. That's a fair point, Glad. But at the same time, I hope Glad got that shirt, man. I was on my way to Louisiana, so my connection was terrible. Glad, I think, was out of the house before it, but we still got a couple of those shirts from the giveaway that are still available. I've sent out the 2 or 3 that also were given away, but we still got a couple shirts. So, Glad, you're always first in the house. If you want a shirt, you can get a shirt. Just IM me. Who says that anymore? DM me in Facebook Messenger or Twitter or something like that, or Instagram, whatever. Just on some other platform in a more private setting. Let me know your shirt size and shipping address, and I will get you the shirt. But regarding the game tonight, I know that the Mavericks traded up from 5 to 3 to flip Trae Young for Luka Doncic, and there's merit to it, and I get that Trae Young had a game the other day where he went for 35 and 11. That's going to get you attention. And I know some people who are very high on Trae Young and feel like he is Curry light, Steph Curry light. And to me, I think he's a very promising player, but he feels very boom or bust to me. No pun intended, him being from OU, Boomer Sooner. But I feel like he's a guy who, he can make a lot of plays. He's the only guy in NCAA basketball history to ever lead the country in both points and assists. So that's an impressive feat he accomplished. But as we saw as the year wore on for OU, he really was a one-man show, and it was all about Trae Young. So when other teams simply D'd him up, he wasn't really making a whole lot happen. They basically didn't care if he got his points because OU as a team was not staying in games. Now, I'm not saying that'll happen. Obviously, he was a one-year player at OU. He can grow. He can develop. Things can change with him in Atlanta. Video sound in background. I wonder what's going live. Damn you, Twitch. How about now? I should address it. I got nothing else rolling. Anyway, Yeah, he should be able to grow and to get past that. But at the same time, what up, Logan? What I look at for anyone who thinks Dallas made a mistake trading Trae Young for Luka Doncic, the point I always come back to is, how do you think the pairing would work with Trae Young and Dennis Smith Jr.? Because both are undersized guards. Both need the ball in their hands. Not all the time. Obviously, Dennis is working, going a little more off ball. But at the same time, I just don't think that's a pairing. I just don't think that's a pairing that would have gelled as well. And if you're talking about the prospect of like, okay, you got Trae Young, now you need to figure out where to deal Dennis Smith or something like that. Well, I don't want that at all. What was the point of taking Dennis Smith at 9 last year and him being a steal at 9? If you're telling me, like, I'd rather have Luka and Dennis Smith than just having Trae Young. And I think the pairing of Dennis Smith and Luka together are better than the pairing of Dennis and Trae Young would have been. That's just my thinking. But I don't know. There are people who are going to always question it. I agree, Glay. Luka is a better fit for Dallas. And the people who make those predictions, I think, don't look at context. They just look at, I'm going to hold up this one player by himself, compare him to this player, tell you which I think has the higher ceiling, and determine what I deem they're worth off of that. But fit is everything. And Luka fits this team beautifully. Not to say Trae Young would have been a terrible fit, but I don't think it would have been near as good of a fit, especially when you're pairing him with another building block of the future in Dennis Smith Jr. Donnie made the right move. I agree, big homie from the D. Let's see here. So, 1 of 82, no crunch time until we start seeing a clearer playoff picture. I agree. So, here's the thing. Fun trend. The Mavericks are over 500 for the first time since, I think it was the 2015-2016 season when they went 42-40 and made the playoffs. That's been a minute. Wait, that can't be right. 42-40 didn't make the playoffs. So, well, since that season, I don't remember what their record was then, but there was a moment, I guess, where they were 42-40, and that was the last time they were over 500. And for my Cowboys people in the chat, this is just an observation of mine. Even though the Cowboys have played 7 games and the Mavericks have played 3, the Mavericks have won back-to-back games first. Ooh. But yes, when is Dirk healthy? Keldon's asking. Dirk's probably going to miss about a month. Dirk is recovering very slowly from this cleanup procedure he had on his ankle. That was shortly after the season ended last year, too. So it's a little concerning for Dirk. All signs continue to point to this being the last run for Dirk, and unfortunately, it might be more of a novelty for him to be out there than it is for him to be actually, or it'll be a novelty for him to be on the court than anything it feels like right now. Now, regarding this team, the piece hasn't published yet, but I just wrote a new article today for Dallas Sports Fanatic because I am a machine, apparently. My Cowboys won yesterday and Mavericks won today. I wanted to talk specifically about 3, to me, kind of early trends, 3 numbers that really jump out at me. And I think the editor changed the title to say that they were eye-popping, but to me, it's just 3 interesting stats trends that have kind of defined the very, very early part of the season. Number 1, the Mavericks, it's clear that they have a fascination with the 3-ball. In their game against Minnesota at home, their home opener, they attempted a franchise record 50 attempts. Their previous record, I believe 49, was set sometime in the mid to late 90s. I want to say it was like 96 or 99. I know that's a weird gap, but come on, it's like the same shape of the number. You just kind of flip and reverse it. Flip it down, lay it, and reverse it was the Missy Elliott thing. Oh, God. I don't know why I try to make these references sometimes, but regardless, that's the most attempts they've had in a very, very long time. And 80% of Dallas's shots are either coming from 3 or from in the restricted zone. So there is no in-between for them. They have basically decided to emulate the Houston Rockets in that regard, where it's like, hey, if it's not 3, it's point blank, and we're going to take our chances either getting fouled or just getting a higher percentage shot than a pull-up jumper or anything like that. So, and honestly, I think that there's some merit to that philosophy, especially in today's modern NBA. As for when Harrison Barnes will return, I think that's Friday night when he comes back. Let's see. The sound was me. Luka and Trae being asked to do two different things, so it's hard to compare them. I agree. Donnie made the right move. If Trae Young shot's not falling, I think it hurts him. Luka's not falling. He can do more. Yeah, that was one of the points I made previously, too, was that Trae Young, even though he is a good playmaker, again, led the nation in assists as well last year for D1, he's still a guy who he can be effective as a distributor, but I don't think he can control a game in that way. I think because he's so prolific as a scorer most nights, he's able to kind of lull defenses into sleep and then make plays dishing the ball as well. But if the one aspect of his game's not going, I don't know that the passing side blows you away. Luka Doncic was made to be a distributor for the Mavericks, and yet here, in large part, he's been more of a scorer. His assist numbers aren't crazy. In the comments there, Max will tell you, Rangers King will tell you, there's a reason behind that, and it's probably more of a adjustment period anomaly kind of thing, and we'll see his assist numbers come up, and maybe that has some effect as well on his scoring output as well. I don't know. Let's see. 7 seed, baby. That'd be sweet, but we'll see. Powell's being very efficient so far this year. Yes, that's one of the articles I might need to eventually write. Dwight Powell, I am sorry. Dear Dwight Powell, I'm sorry. I was not a fan of Dwight Powell. Even last year, I reluctantly came around and said, okay, I don't know about him, but he's had a good year, and I can recognize that. So that's where I'm at in that regard. And this year, early on, I'm kind of like, damn, I might have just been wrong in general about Dwight Powell. So he looks like he's coming into his own. He's been excellent off the bench. I know there are some people already calling for him to be moved into the starting lineup. I disagree with that assessment, honestly. And the reason is because in my mind, Dwight Powell is much better as an energy guy off of the bench. I think that works much better for him than being injected into the starting lineup. Let me make an adjustment here on something on my settings I see is slightly wonky. Bear with me just a moment. Let's see. Nah, I'll deal with that later. But I digress. Let's see. Dennis is not playing so good right now. He's had a rough start, and I think part of that is simply the adjustment to, again, being more off the ball, and sometimes his shot just hasn't been falling. I think that's just not a fluke, but certainly not anything to concern you ultimately, because you still see those moments. His game the other night against Chicago, 6 assists, 1 turnover, and even though he hasn't always scored efficiently, he's still largely done pretty well in most of the games. In Minnesota, Luka led us on a ferocious charge into about the last couple minutes of the game. He hit a couple big buckets. Very impressive to see out of a rookie. But then it was Dennis Smith who took over and closed the deal. I think Dennis had his final 7 points in the last few minutes of that game against Minnesota. So he still shows he can absolutely do it on his own. It's just a matter of him finding his rhythm and figuring out how to work within the adjusted offense. And here's the thing. Friday night, Harrison Barnes is supposed to return. Dirk, like I said, he's probably still about a month out. Not a month from now, like they said about the first month of the season, he would probably miss. So Dirk is a more belated arrival, but at the same time, I think it'll help as well. Let me see here. Comments are starting to get away from me. I want to make sure I stay on top of stuff, hit everyone's questions and comments. Let's look at it slightly more complete picture. Dennis Smith Jr. and Luka or Trae, the 2019 pick. Say Cam Reddish and whoever we trade Dennis Smith for, say a wing and a second-round pick. For example, Mikal Bridges. Man, you're making me go so far into this analogy here, or into this hypothetical. Man, 24 of you guys. Is this a good time you guys want me to run a Maverick show during the week? Let me know. Like, comment and let me know if you like this live time here. I honestly was kind of curious how well this would be received, me going live right around 5:30 during the week. But it looks like you guys are turning out. That's awesome. DeAndre Jordan's free throw shooting is... Oh, wait. I didn't finish that. Okay. We have to make these games as interesting as possible. Young versus Doncic. Big game. LOL. But they'll be linked together their entire career. I agree. Yes, DeAndre Jordan's free throw shooting has been eye-popping. That's one of the things I actually mentioned in my article. Now, this is the one that's the least likely to continue at this rate. But all the same, he can show improvement. He actually showed improvement last year as well. So he showed improvement his last year with the Clippers, and right now he's 9 of 10 on the season, 90% from the stripe. That's ridiculous, but you know, it's a small sample size, admittedly. But you're still talking about a guy who is a career 44.7% free throw shooter. So for him to now be sitting here at 90, you know, after the first week of the season is kind of like, what? Like, what is going on here? Who's wearing the DeAndre Jordan mask and shooting his free throws? Like a boss. Imaginable. What's up? Jarris TV and Vlogs. My prediction for tonight's game. I would say my prediction for tonight's game. It's on the road. I'm going to say Dallas wins a close game. And Trae Young is he's going to show out. Here's the thing. I think Dallas wins the game. I think Trae Young, though, will score 30 points. Something in that range. 29, 30, 32, something like that. And there are still going to be people who simply look at the box score and say, duh, he's better, because Luka himself will probably have something in the neighborhood of 16 and 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and they'll say Trae Young is better. Scoring is nice. It is very nice, but it's not the whole game. It's not the whole impact of a game. Some things you just have to watch to understand how a guy puts his fingerprints all over a game, and scoring is not the end-all, be-all. Maxey made Dwight have to step up. Maxey's been pretty good too. I think most people came around on Dwight Powell last year. I did too. He was really raw before. Now he's really good. Yeah, I was actually worried that, and I was making this quote even in the offseason around the draft. I was really worried that Dwight Powell had already reached his ceiling, and he might be very close to it. But all the same, even if he is close to his ceiling, if he can give you this kind of production, what's not to like? That's worth something off the bench. That's worth keeping around. So we'll see. Dennis Smith Jr. needs to step up today. Only scored 7 points against the Bulls. Yes, that's true. He also had 6 assists and 1 turnover. So he was more under control, and I feel like he more so tried to let the game come to him a little bit more. Obviously, his field goal percentage needs to improve, but we'll see if that can happen. Almost forgot about the game, says Mojo99. It's an early start. We're starting in, for my time, it's 5:33 right now, so we're starting in like 27 minutes. Dennis Smith Jr. forcing his shots. He absolutely is. Seems like Doncic is a better point guard than Dennis, or am I crazy? Dennis seems more like a 2 guard or a combo guard. Dennis can play the 1, 2, 3, or 4. They're probably going to ask him to play anything from the 2 to the 4, depending on what lineups they roll out there. But Dennis Smith Jr., part of what Luka Doncic, part of what makes him as special as he is that he is a point forward, and there aren't a lot of those at this point in the league. So he is a weapon and a threat to, as we've seen, grab down a rebound and take off down the field and just pull up. Like, he'll pull up from 3 on a one-man fast break and knock it down. His three-point shooting has been very good this year, I feel. I've been very impressed. I know he had an 0 for 5 in his debut from 3, but since then, he's looked much better. This is right before the game, so that works really well. Can't always watch before the games when they're late, though. True. I'm not saying I would go live right before the game, regardless of what the game starts at. The fact that the game starts at 6 and I went live at like 5:15, that's a coincidence in this case. This is just like once or twice during the week, I would go live for a Mavs Fastbreak or a Mavs, whatever you want to call it, just a Mavs show sometime around 5:30. Can you make some Mavs game reaction video too? What do you mean? Like me commentating the game? Kind of like, you know, where I'm watching the game and commentating over it and you just have my analysis and everything and, as you said, reactions as it goes. I've got I think, the capability to do that, but I'd have to see about it. That's also a tough thing to do as a one-man show. I've done sample runs of that, and I did one Cowboy game like that, but with the Cowboy game, I had a co-host. So I'm not against it. In fact, I've even looked into it. I don't know that I have it set up to do right now, but I will investigate that further. Doubtful right now, but everything on the table in the future. 29 people watching, but only 5 likes. Yeah, guys, what Glass said? Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe. Well, you probably already hit the subscribe if you're here. Hit the little notification bell. Like the video. Share the video. Grow the community. There are 31 of you guys in here right now, and that is awesome. But let's grow this thing. Let's make this thing happen. Hairlock, what's up? Oh, so used to have to watch it at work where I'm not signed in and can't like. Oh, gotcha, guys. Gotcha. Luka sure is looking good. Yeah, man. Luka has looked very good for the most part. His first game, that's why I was so frustrated when people after one game in which he went for like 10, 8, and 4 said, oh, he's a bust. Like, seriously? Come on, guys. I don't care if he went for 99 points. I would still say you can't say definitively what he is or isn't. Like, hey, that's promising, but it's one game. You can't make any assessment or any analysis of what he is. Powell should be in the starting lineup. He's emerging. Again, I think Dwight Powell works better as a change of pace guy, kind of coming off the bench, an energy guy, if you will. And I think there's a lot of value to that, so I would want to keep Dwight Powell coming off the bench. But I would like to see some more Dorian Finney-Smith. I'd like to see him. I know he's been starting with Barnes out. I'm just saying I want to see him get more of a role. I don't want to see him minimized in his role when Barnes comes back Friday. Bastard Person, do you really feel that Dennis Smith Jr. will be traded in the deadline? Some fans say so. No, I don't. No way. I don't see it at all. He's a second-year player, highly touted, very high ceiling. In fact, while working out with Steph Curry's personal trainer over the summer, Steph Curry's trainer made 3 assessments of Dennis Smith Jr. 1, he is relentlessly competitive. 2, he is a future all-star, likely within the next 3 years. 3, he has a, quote, unseeable ceiling. So give the guy some time. Let him develop. There's no way he's being traded before the deadline. It's not like you have Trae Young and Dennis Smith, and you have 2 guys that basically both need to run point guard and both need to have the ball in their hands to make something happen. You don't have that. Luka and Dennis Smith can complement each other very nicely. You don't have a crowded situation in terms of the ball, so there's nothing to worry about in that regard. I read somewhere today where it said, the world is big enough for Trae and Luka to both do good, and I still want Luka to ball tonight. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's not like every time Trae Young goes out and drops 30, or every time Luka drops 20 and 8 assists and 7 rebounds or something like that, that like, oh, see, Luka was the right choice. He is the right choice for us, I think, but that's not to say, oh, Atlanta lost that deal. Believe it or not, there are deals in basketball and football and any sport where you have a trade and both teams can effectively win the trade. Does it always happen? No. In fact, is it common? Not super common, but it does happen. You just got to see. Brandon, what's up? Dennis Smith has looked pretty disappointing with flashes of something better. What are your thoughts on what you've seen? I think he's adapting a little bit. He didn't start working off the ball until late last year. And he's always been a guy who in high school and college had the ball in his hand at all times. And I think that it's just a growing period for him in that regard, because not everything is running through him anymore. And there's going to be some adapting to that. He wasn't a terribly efficient scorer last year. That's one of the main areas of growth I outlined that I wanted to see from him. Hopefully he can do that. I think he's capable of doing that. And, you know, when Harrison Barnes comes back, that should just make things a little bit easier for him as well. Yeah, that means a little bit fewer shots to go around, but at the same time, it gives a scoring boost in that regard where not as much is asked of him and the game can kind of come to him more naturally, which with regard to his playmaking, he has been letting the game come to him in that regard. Again, Chicago, 6 assists, 1 turnover. So he's shown flashes. You saw the end of the Minnesota game. He delivered the very end of that game, and he got it done. So hang tight with Dennis. I know everyone's a little frustrated by him. I am as well, but hang tight on him. I promise he is more than capable of turning it around. You have been liked. Oh, I hope they leave it in the comment. I'm so embarrassed. Thank you, Paul. You mean post-game or live game reaction? Yeah, that's a good qualifier. Live game is more of an effort. If you want post-game, if you want me to jump on here for like 15 minutes post-game, I can do that sometimes. Not all the time, because especially when the game's ending at like midnight, I'm not jumping on here middle of the week at midnight, because I'm basically falling asleep at that point anyway, unless I'm shaking with rage. Dorian over West, who's with me? Yep. How do you feel about our chances of trying to get the Butler trade for West and White? Yeah, you know, when I was writing the Mavs article today for Dallas Sports Fanatic, I almost wrote on that subject. Here's my assessment of it. There are, like anything, pros and cons associated. Jimmy Butler is a phenomenal two-way player. He is a very passionate leader who, if the culture of the team is good and guys work their ass off, I think he'll be great. The problem is, if things aren't right in the locker room with regard to work ethic and things like that, he'll quickly become cancerous, from whether it's demanding more out of his teammates or, you know, just making a situation more volatile because he's not happy with how certain things are going. So it's a high risk, high reward. To your point, you mentioned trading Wes and hold on, let me find your comment again. It just rolled away from me. I want to make sure I got the guys you pitched. Wes and Dwight. I would hate losing Dwight Powell, but on paper, if you could tell me the locker room issues wouldn't be a problem, you look at that and you say it's an elite 2. So yeah, it's a monster upgrade over West. It's another 30-point potential guy who could score, not average, but you know, a guy who can go for 30 on a given night in your lineup. That does appeal to me, but the fact is he's burned his way out of 2 locker rooms now. Well, still working on burning his way out of Minnesota, but I'm afraid to worry. I'm afraid to touch that because I'm so focused on Luka and Dennis Smith Jr.'s development that if he is a bad culture guy and he's messing with locker rooms and all of that, I don't want him kind of polluting Dennis or Luka in that way. Let me see. I think someone answered that too. Forcing shots, but he should want to be aggressive. I think he's talking about Dennis Smith there. Let's go Dennis Smith, man. Love the Mavs. That's right, Anthony. Dennis Smith, game winner. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A part of me wants the Mavs to be competitive but still lose games and get the Duke boys next year. You talking about Zion? Yeah, the thing is, the Mavericks would have to have a top 5 pick if they were to keep their first rounder, and I think they're going to be too good for that, honestly. I think Dallas is going to be somewhere in the mid to high 30s as far as wins. And, well, if you're remembering my prop bet with any, my co-host at times on Mavs Fastbreak, I actually picked 40 or 41 wins for the sake of our bet. But realistically, somewhere between mid-30s to high 30s is what I predict, and that's not going to get you a top 5. I honestly don't care what Trae Young does. I'm happy with what we have. That's a good way to look at it. None of those guys are going to fit the timeline for the Mavs. Need something effective in the playoff run. Yep. Early season, these young guys are still getting adjusted and playing together in the league. Hold on. Sometimes the comments come in a chunk and the thing jumps away from me. None of those guys. Yep, got that. Early season, these guys are getting adjusted to playing together in the league. Yes. When Harrison Barnes and Dirk come back, do you think the rest of the minutes will fall to the rest? Oh, fall for the rest of the guys. I mean, when Harrison comes back, you have to worry about Dorian Finney-Smith's minutes a little bit, unless they have him play over Wes. But Wes has been polarizing so far this season. He's really been a guy who has shown himself capable of just throwing up brick after brick after brick. But then he has hit a couple big shots as well. I think it was the Chicago game. I think he was the high scorer with 20 points. So, I mean, you just have to see what the setup is and how he can fit into it. But I do feel like Wes is in large part throwing up and forcing a lot of shots. I hate when he does a 3 off the dribble. I just don't feel like that should be his game at this point. He should be a catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter and only taking a shot off the dribble if the shot clock's winding down and he doesn't have time to pass it. That's just my opinion on Wes. So I do think minutes will be adjusted. You're going to have someone who loses some time because if you got Dirk and Barnes coming back, you're not going to be able to give the same minutes to Kleber, to Powell, to Finney-Smith. I mean, you're going to have to make adjustments, yes. Wes is frustrating me this season. Forces shots, periods of time. He is so shit. It's unbelievable. Then he's not. And he's got good stretches too. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, I know you commented that before I actually got to that part of my narration, but yes. Not sure what to really think. JJ has impressed me the most. Yeah, until last game, JJ Barea was actually leading the league as far as assists per game. Now, obviously, that's 2 games, so it's like take with a mound of salt, not even a grain of salt, but still 10.5 a game. Now I think he's like 8 or 8.5 a game on assists. That's pretty good production out of your backup point guard. So yeah, I'm happy with what JJ Barea is doing. Still bringing in some playmaking ability off the bench. I don't know when Devin Harris will be back. I think they said like a week at least at the time. So he's not back yet, but I'll be curious to see what he can bring when he does come back because honestly, of the backcourt, I feel like he's most expendable. That's just my thought. I know he's Rangers King has said it before. He's elite as far as his cut, one of the best cutters in the league. But unless he is teaching all of his tricks and all that to guys like Dennis Smith Jr. and Luka Doncic, I don't know how much that'll benefit Dallas at this point. He might be another trade fodder guy, which would be 2 straight years, and that would suck for him. I did see Luka when he shot that 3 early in the first quarter pose as he shot it. He's a bit cocky, isn't he? Didn't know that about him. I love it. Oh, yeah, Luka's definitely got some swagger. He definitely, he gets going, he'll feel it, and he'll definitely let you know he's feeling it. So, I mean, when he got fouled, or when he fouled a shooter in the Chicago game, he yelled out, when the guy missed the free throw, he yelled out, "Ball don't lie." First of all, I love the callback to Rasheed Wallace in the early 2000s and all that. I love that mentality of letting the ref know, like, hey, man, that's proof right there is a BS call. Ball doesn't lie. Like, I love that. You got to be careful with that. You don't want to call out the ref and then have the ref immediately let a judgment call go against you as a result, but still. Butler, Luka wouldn't get along at all. Let's go get Middleton. Middleton is a very good piece they need to look at. A much safer piece as well. Enrique, what's up? Dwight Powell is a key piece on our team. We can't lose him. Yeah, I would say that's generally true. The only way in which I would be open to it would be if they were somehow swinging a blockbuster trade for a guy that could come in and be a major starter. I know Butler would be that guy, but I think Butler comes with too much baggage. In this case, that guy would be like Middleton, but Middleton's going to be a restricted free agent, so that's your best bet to get Middleton anyway. Remember Rondo? I do remember the horror of Rajon Rondo and the prop bet. We should not worry about trades right now. I agree. Based on how strong the West is realistically, a playoff run for us isn't to be expected for another 2 years. Can't really gauge players' development. Look at Tatum and Mitchell. I don't know if 2 years, unless you're saying by 2 years, like don't count this year, but then count next year. But if you're saying 2 years of missing playoffs and then that could happen. But I think this team could make the jump next year. I don't have them making it this year, but I think by next year they could because they're going to have a lot of cap money. And if they were to add a Chris Middleton, perhaps, that would definitely be a significant boost to this team. Hate when people talk bad about Dennis Smith Jr. He is the guy. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to temper people jumping off that bandwagon like, no, 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 trust me, he'll get through it. Hope he goes off one night for like 25 or at least 2 awesome dunks and kill the negativity before it gets out of hand like Dak. I don't think it's not going to have the same magnification that Dak has just because the Mavericks aren't the Cowboys. And, well, I mean, that's really all you got to say in that regard. Quarterbacks take an unfair amount of criticism or praise for that record, or for that matter, but mostly criticism for anything and everything that goes wrong. Point guards in the NBA or just NBA players in general, unless you're like an elite guy, you don't face that same level of scrutiny. Mitchell can, among certain people, Tatum in general, 20 points for West versus Bulls. There you go. Kleber has been looking like a young Dirk. Ironic that he's from, what, Würzburg, right? Yeah. Don't want Devin, I want Jalen to get those minutes. Yeah, I would definitely like to see Jalen Brunson get some more minutes. I've been pretty impressed with the small amount of time he's been getting and what he's been able to do with it. Elite cutter, huh? Hey, I'll let Ranger King lay all that out. Would you put Smith Jr. off the bench if he has a bad game tonight and get him to play against other teams' secondary units and see how he does? Would I move Dennis Smith Jr. to the bench based on 3, maybe 4 games of action? No. If you're gonna try and send some kind of message like that, I think you got to wait until that trend is gone for like 10 to 20 games, because he's letting the game largely come to him, and yeah, his shots aren't falling right now, but shooters go into funks all the time. It's a 3-game sample size. It's too early to make a drastic change to the rotation in that regard. But how would he do against second units? I think he would be strong, to your point. 40 people in the live stream. Well, I'm showing 36 now, but we did have 40. I think we got up to like 43, in fact, at one point. I'm sure Devin wouldn't mind getting traded to Houston. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't mind getting traded to Houston. Middleton is an unrestricted free agent, but I think he just had a slip of the tongue. Yes, that definitely. I thought it was restricted. Or, yes, I said restricted, meant unrestricted. What is the biggest missing piece on this team in your opinion? I want another 3-point shooter. And I know that might sound crazy because, again, Dallas is shooting 36% from 3 right now as a team. And I think that number could certainly tick up because you're having multiple clean looks a game that Luka or, to a lesser extent, Dennis Smith are creating, and they're just not knocking them down. And part of that is just kind of finding your rhythm. Then you got Harrison Barnes, another guy that can knock down the 3 coming back. You got Dirk, who is like the ultimate spot-up 3-point shooter at this stage of in his career. You got a lot of guys, a lot of new guys coming in that you can do something with in that regard. So 3-point shooting will be good, but I do think that you could use one more. And this is the thing I lament about losing out on Seth Curry. That dude, and it wasn't just his 3-point game. I mean, he could do stuff off the dribble and all that. Dude was a killer. As a second unit guy, I loved Seth Curry, and I feel like that is something the team is missing a little bit right now. So that would be nice, or just a upgrade at the starting 2. Who's going to be commentating on ESPN? I don't know, but I would always tell you go Fox Sports. Fox Sports Southwest is much better. Mark Followell is the dude. Another guy that I had the opportunity to meet covering the Mavs a couple of years ago, and guy is awesome. What's it saying is that the class is far lower quality based on what we've seen so far compared to the past 2. Gotcha. Wait, I just realized like a mod or something. That's really cool, DDP. Thanks. Yeah, man, absolutely. Oh, I really like Dennis Smith Jr. He's got that dog in him. Definitely does. I like Dennis Smith a lot, and that's why I'm telling people, pump the brakes. He'll figure it out, and he'll get back to those glimpses we saw last year. In fact, I think there'll be more of them. Could DeAndre make the All-Star team? In this conference, it's going to be extremely difficult. I don't know about him making it, but if he's even in the discussion for it, that's something. He won't be a starter, which is what's named the votes from the fans. I don't think he'll have enough to get there just with how stacked the conference is. Centers are kind of optional in the All-Star game anyway. They'll just put another forward. Or say, like, Anthony Davis, there's your 5. Like, well, yeah, but he's really more of a 4. Okay, whatever. Like that's what they're gonna do. So odds are no for DeAndre making the All-Star game, but he doesn't have to make the All-Star game to be a monumental impact in a positive way for your team. He's averaging like 12.7 boards and like 17 points or something like that right now. I mean, he's been a dog for them in a good way. He has been killing it. And thus far, everything that was advertised, 2.3 blocks a game as well. So small sample size, but a very good start. Hey, new fam, like the stream. Yes, another call for liking this video. Share, subscribe, ring the bell, join the notification squad. We go live multiple times a week talking Cowboys, Mavericks, college football, whatever. At least 2 or 3 times a week now for Mavericks, now that the season's in play. Or at least that's my goal. I think right now I'm doing about 2 a week. And Cowboys twice a week as well. So, yes, tune in by all means. Dennis Smith needs to get his jump shot going by drive to the basket, dunks, layups, free throws, making easy shots. Yeah, he's had a hard time actually right at the rim in his career to this point, despite having a 48-inch vertical. One aspect of his game he worked on during the summer, and we've seen glimpses of it, is that floater, which is really good because sometimes you don't have to get all the way to the basket to have like a significant impact. And so if he can just kind of work in that in-between a little bit, I think he'll be able to expand his game out from there, like in the flow of a game, instead of trying to work outside in or point blank. I think in that middle space, somewhere in that like 5 to 7 foot range, that runner or floater will go a long way for him. However, Middleton has a cheap player option, so theoretically they could pick it up, but I pray not. Gotcha. There's good context. Dennis Smith needs... Oh, I already read that. Dallas needs a player who will show consistency on both sides of the ball, and Barnes can be that guy as all the pressure is off him. Yeah, he will be assisted. You know, he's their leading scorer the last 2 years, averaging about 19, a little over 19 points a game. Now he's got Luka Doncic, and another thing about him being their leading scorer the last 2 years, he's effectively had to create completely on his own, which was not what he had to do in Golden State. And now he doesn't have to create on his own. Now you have Dennis Smith who can create a little bit. You have Luka Doncic who can create a lot. There is plenty of structure around him that you should see a better Harrison Barnes. Might not always be more points, but it will be more efficient. And when he does, he'll make bigger plays, I think. I think you'll see better overall performances out of him. I hope you're right. With the Mavs timeline you speak of, Dennis Smith is seasoned for the playoffs. He's pretty inconsistent. Again, I don't think the team is ready this year for the playoffs. Could they, in the last month, be in the running? Sure. But I don't think that they're there yet. I think they need one more year, and I think year 3 of Dennis Smith will be another step forward. It's usually year 1 is rookie raw. Year 2 is glimpses and a little bit better, a little more consistent. Year 3, to me, is usually the leap forward and kind of like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I got this all put together. And yeah, guys will continue to ascend generally, but I think that's around the time you'll see everything kind of come together for Dennis Smith. Brokoff needs minutes. Why aren't they playing threes for layups? Brokoff does need more minutes, absolutely. I'm definitely a Dennis Smith Jr. skeptic, but I'm withholding judgment for now. Dennis Smith Jr. ain't a shooter. He's a slasher. Don't try and make him what he's not. Again, I'm not talking about him being a three-point shooter. I'm talking about him having a runner or a floater 5 to 7 feet. That's not crazy extension of his game. Instead of everything being at the rim, I'm saying move back about 5 feet and have a floater, a Tony Parker-like floater. And he worked on that in the offseason. You saw it in the preseason. You've seen him attempt a couple times this season, and they just haven't quite dropped yet. But that's an element of his game that if he can add that, he will be more diverse in how he can attack opposing defenses, and he'll get blocked less often, honestly. Pretty decent shooter when he has a good shot selection. Definitely not notable in a positive way either. Dennis Goodman, 2 games tonight. Watch, we need Butler. Again, I don't know that the Butler thing's going to happen. I think we're going to be outbid anyway, and I think Mark, granted, this could be a smokescreen. We know they like to do that. Mark kind of dispelled that when the rumors first started swirling around Butler after he refused to sign his max deal with Minnesota, that Mark pretty much said, yeah, the cost to get a guy like that's really high. So, like, we kicked the tires, and we did not like at all the answer we got back. So, we'll see. But my guess is it's going to be more rich for our blood than we want to do. And it's a guy with too many questions. You know, Rondo tore this locker room apart. Really derailed what was a very strong offensive team for the Mavericks in the 2015 season. And you can't have that. You can't let that happen again. Yep, about to wrap up, guys. Game starting up here. Let's see. Last comments. Problem I see with Dennis Cap on his overall offensive game right now. He solely relies on his quickness and athletic ability, no floater. That's why I want him to develop that floater. And pull-up will be nice as well. But that's going to wrap up the time for this show, guys. Mavericks game is about to kick off, so I'll let you guys get going, and I'm going to get going to watch the game as well. Don't forget to, again, like this video, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and above all, guys, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute. And outro.